Are you seeking a sense of freedom, and do you know how to find that in the power of forgiveness? I'm Tina Yeager. I'm your host of Flourish-Meant today, and I have a wonderful friend and return guest in Eva Marie Everson. She is, if you don't know her name, the award-winning author of over 50 titles. She is CEO of Word Weavers International and the director of the Florida Christian Writers Conference, and she's also the recipient of the Yvonne Lehman Legacy Award and Lifetime Achievement Awards. Welcome, Eva. I am so excited to have a conversation with you today about the freedom of forgiveness.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a critical topic in my work and in my life, and I am so happy to be able to share it with your listeners.
Eva, I'd like to talk about an objection that people often have when they think about God's command to forgive others so that we can be forgiven. It seems like he's asking us to forgive all at once, which is humanly impossible to do. Does he expect us to just get over it quickly, or is it a process? And how does he walk with us through the healing of that trauma? Let's talk about that.
The only one capable of total forgiveness, boom, just like that, would be God, and that's not who we are. God's mercies are renewed every morning, but ours aren't. we wake up in the morning with just thinking about things, right? So we are not God, but we want to be more like him. And yes, there has to be a process in that, because even as we say, yes, Lord, I am choosing to forgive, there still may be some resentment that will rise up and we say, oh, I did not realize that was there. It's kind of like, and I mean, it sounds like a very gross thing to say, but it's like if you had a pimple on your back. And you don't know, right? You don't know it's there because you can't see your back, or any kind of sore on your back. You don't know because you don't see it until it becomes infected, or, your clothes start to rub against it and you think, oh, I didn't even know that was there, because you didn't see it, you didn't deal with it. And I think that sometimes even unforgiveness can be like that. We think we've gotten over it, but we really haven't. And so now something has kind of risen to the surface and was, oh, I didn't even know. So now I can hand that back over to God as well. But then God has to heal our hearts. If you cut yourself, bruise yourself, etc., you put some medicine on that boo-boo, it doesn't heal like that. It takes time. But time is what you have until there is no time. I think as long as you are persistent in giving that to God, then he will be just as persistent in healing the wound. And if it takes a year, if it takes 10 years, as long as you are continuing to walk in that truth of what forgiveness is all about, it's good. But again, it's not reconciliation. There are people in my life who I have forgiven that there's never been any reconciliation, and that's on them because they haven't done their part, But just because they haven't said, I'm sorry, doesn't mean I haven't forgiven.
And that's important to recognize, that forgiveness is a choice within us to trust God and to free ourselves from toxic impact of unforgiveness and resentment. I would like to really get into some of the effects that unforgiveness can have on us spiritually, but also physically. It is a medical problem. It is a social relational problem with the people that are our good friends and family members, the people that should be life-giving. We have problems in those relationships when we're not forgiving someone else from our past or present. So let's talk about all the multi-layered toxic effects of unforgiveness.
Well, like you were saying, and it has been proven that unforgiveness can actually lead to physical illnesses, heart issues, and even brain issues, muscular issues, And I know someone who really struggles with the whole forgiveness, unforgiveness thing, and tends to lean more toward the unforgiveness. I'm just so comfortable right now in my unforgiveness. I'm just going to stick with that. And there's some truth in this. You can be sick for so long that you become friends with the illness. It's true. And so what I have seen in this person though is their whole body is starting to change. Their facial expressions are starting to change. They don't laugh like they used to. They're not as much fun to be around. They tend to see everything so negatively. And who wants to be around that all the time, right? Nobody. Nobody wants to be around negativity all the time. And so slowly they begin to lose friends, and then they're alone. And again, we see that those people who have thriving relationships do better physically and medically and emotionally and spiritually than those who don't. It's documented.
And this is a process that God can lead us through over years of time, if necessary, as He walks with us to heal our trauma. And the important piece is that we're obeying Him with that choice and walking with Him through the layers that can sometimes happen in layers, where you're healing one layer of the trauma and releasing one layer of the unforgiveness and resentment. And then as we are able in that process with God, we go to another layer of that. Have you found that to be true?
Yes, as a matter of fact, one of the things that happened with my husband and me is that several years had gone by after this almost unforgivable thing that had happened 30 something years ago. We were talking about the person who had hurt us, or one of the people that had hurt us. And it was with a positive memory, and we were laughing about something really funny that had happened with that person. And I said to my husband, I think we just hit another milestone with this, because we are now looking at the fun things that happened and not the trauma that happened. We're remembering the good times and not focusing on, but she did this, or but he did that. And I think that's a sign of the healing that is taking place. And it's a good thing, because not, hopefully not everything is bad. And that's one of the things too that I wrote about in Miss Beth Bettencourt, when Marty is talking to Beth about the power of forgiveness. One of the things, like he should have unforgiveness toward his stepfather, who was physically abusive to him, to his mother, very emotionally abusive toward the family. But he's sharing with her some really fun things that he did with his dad, because that was his dad as far as he was concerned. And he was talking about when, I think if I remember correctly, he was talking about when they used to rake leaves in the backyard. And it was this whole thing about who could get the biggest pile, and then shucking corn, who could shuck the most corn. And he was like, my father turned it into a game. My mother and father turned it into a game. And he's sharing with her these positive memories. And this is coming from a man who literally has scars on his back from his father's abuse. And that's when the healing has taken effect.
And when you can pray a blessing over that person, ultimately, that's not the first step, but ultimately being able to wish the best for that person freely, like Jesus did for those who crucified him.
That's
Father,
so
forgive
hard.
It is. It is, but it's not the first step either.
No, it's
further
not.
down the line.
It's not. It's like, I don't, that old saying, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, that you can actually be there. Like, like something horrible happens and you say, oh, I wish it would happen to him, but instead actually say, I would never wish this on you. I would never wish, this type of thing on you. There was an old country song years ago about, that the Bible says I'm supposed to pray for you. So I pray your brakes give out in your car. It was like that. And of course it was the complete opposite of what God wants us to do. But man, what a great step that is. It's hard to be angry at someone you're praying for.
Yes. And I think the gospel message is country music songs played backwards, because God redeems and renews and restores all of those things that we've lost. Lost everything in the country song, but we get everything back through the hope of Christ. So what is one final message that you want to make sure everyone gets from this message of forgiveness today?
What I pray in my heart right now is that anyone who is dealing with unforgiveness, whether they realize it or not, that you will ask God to show you if there's any area in your life that still needs to be reckoned with. And, there's that word reconciliation, but that you need to reckon this with God, first of all. He is not necessarily saying that you have to reconcile with another person, but you do need to reckon with God. And that if, you don't even know sometimes that there is bitterness and unforgiveness in your heart because you have moved on, because we tend to stay busy and we have so much noise around us that we lose that focus, but it is still there. So ask God to show you those things, and then ask him to help you in that healing process of forgiveness. If you need to speak with someone, find a good Christian counselor who can help you. It needs to be a Christian counselor because they really have to understand the power of forgiveness and what forgiveness is all about. It's not about wallowing in what happened. It's about being freed from what happened.
Eva, how could people get a copy of your newest release, Miss Beth Bettencourt, as of May 12th, 2026, depending on when you're listening to this? And how can they stay in touch with you?
Well, again, my website is Eva Marie Everson author.com. I think I may be the only Eva Marie Everson out there. I did have a name squatter for a while who formed EvaMarieEverson.com. That's not me. A lot of people thought it was me, but it's not me. And then that one went away. But I can be found on a lot of social media, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Just type in my name. Boom, there I am. Miss Beth Bettencourt will be sold in bookstores. You can find them in libraries. If your library is not carrying it, ask them to carry it. And then, of course, all of the online sites, Amazon, christianbook.com, barnesandnoble.com, Walmart, etc. All of those places will have Miss Beth Bettencourt, and it is for sale right now. So if you want to go ahead and pre-order, you'll get it on May 12th.
I hope that all of you listening have the power now to take your first step to choose forgiveness and set yourself free. And of course, I also hope that you will come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant.